ているよ
Hello, and welcome to the Anime Pod, the seasonal anime recap show brought to you by That Nerdy Site. I'm your host, Christian Puente, aka Pixel Brave. You can find me on Twitter at Pixel Brave. You can follow the show here at That Anime Pod for updates on what I'm watching as well. And this show is made possible thanks to That Nerdy Site. Follow us all on Twitter there. You can find the main site for any coverage such as PAX. We all just went there, as well as the other podcasts and other articles we're working on. You can follow that on Twitter at That Nerdy Site. You can also, if you'd like to participate in our Patreon, find us on Patreon at That Nerdy Site. Everything y'all have done to support us there has helped make shows like this possible, so thank you very much. And with that all said, let's go ahead and start recapping some anime. Alright, wow guys, we're here. We're here at the end of the winter 2020 season. Depending on when the shows you guys are watching started, some of them are still going, but as far as what I'm watching, the first of my shows has already ended, and so it's going to be just a matter of time before more and more of them are ending in the next couple weeks. So yeah, we're going to be probably talking about some of these shows for the last time this week. I might do like a little filler arc in between seasons to kind of still tie some loose ends with any shows I'm still watching, but yeah, Winter 2020 is ending, and I liked it. This was a good little season. Not too many shows on my queue. Just a nice little selection. Let's talk about some of those right now. First off, keep your hands off Eizouken. That's one of them that ended. The Eizouken Club, they finally got past their writer's block and production delays, and were able to finally finish producing their third and final film for their school year. They didn't really talk about, like, it's just their next step, actually. I don't know why there's such a finality to the show that I kind of projected and was like, oh, this is the end of the school year, but no, I don't think so, actually. So what I'm trying to say is that they were able to finally complete their third production. Obviously there were hiccups along the way, especially with the mix up with the music. But I'm really happy to see with how that came along. And I'm actually going to cut it there short because actually for my topic of the week, I'm bringing on Sam Kingma to talk to me about Eizouken, about Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken, and we go through a whole spoiler cast. Talk about that. And so I'll kind of cut things off short there and just tune into the rest of the show, and you'll hear me and Sam talk about Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken. There's also My Hero Academia, which has not ended. That's one of the ones that I think has another one or two more episodes for this season, I think. We finished the villain arc as far as Gentle Criminal, that villain. He's already been captured and put away last week between episodes. Midoriya stopped him from infiltrating, so the school festival was still able to go on without a hitch. Class 1A was able to reform. Eri was able to enjoy a really fun experience, and which was what this whole arc was about. Class 1A, after everything they've gone through, kind of realizes that they are having a not so positive effect. They're kind of stressing out some of their fellow students, and so yeah, the culmination of everything they've been working towards was to kind of show everybody a really good time, and it was awesome. And yeah, hopefully we can have a little spoiler talk about that in the future too. Bring on another guest and just talk about the My Hero Season 4 after that proper ends. Even though the festival is over itself, there was an end credits that said, hey, there's preview for next episode, so I guess we'll find out what's happening next. I don't know if we're going to be introducing a new villain or if it's more filler kind of things. I'm not calling this filler. I like this whole school festival arc. People are kind of not down on it, but I am. Haikyuu still going on. Because it started a little bit late, we are just now really getting into the final spring tournament. Like, we have throughout the rest of the season, Kageyama and Hinata, leveling up their skills, everybody improving for the big spring tournament, and we've finally gotten into the proper first match. Against, I forget the name of the school, but their whole thing is that they're very lucky. And so yeah, it's taking a while for Hinata and Kageyama to like kind of get into the groove of things, especially because the spring tournament's in like this really big it's in a gymnasium, not gymnasium, what do you call it? The Coliseum. I don't know. What do you want to call it? A theater, Coliseum, the court, the venue is just way bigger than what they're used to, and so it was kind of messing up with the dynamics a bit, but they're I believe in them. Like, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, wait, at the end of the day, like, when I stop, it's like, it's an anime. I'm sure they're gonna win. I don't know about the final thing, but this first match in the tournament, I'm pretty confident. But it's still cool to see that no matter how far they get, there's always something they still need to overcome. And yeah, this time it's like something you wouldn't even think about. It's just like, yeah, the venue is way huger than we're used to, and so it's throwing off like all of our rhythm. But it was really cool that we also got like a nice episode there with Shimizu. I feel like I'm getting the name right. Their current like third year manager, and we got more backstory on her, which was really cool because she doesn't usually talk a lot, and so we got like a really nice backstory on Shimizu, and just like how she got involved with the team, and that she was an athlete before, and we see that she's better now. She proved that she was still an athlete because she was running and she did like a hurdle jump and everything, and so it shows that like, yeah, like she stopped being an athlete because of an injury, and she's kind of healed and it looks like she's strong again, but it looks like she's still staying with the volleyball team because she's finding a different kind of fulfillment from it. Like she feels properly invested in what the team is going through. So that was fun. And then one more anime finished that I was watching, and it's called and that's I'm gonna be so glad not to have to repeat this title every week, but that is Science Fell in Love, comma, So I Tried to Prove It. Science fell in love, so I tried to prove it. Please make small titles like Haikyuu. It's short and sweet, you know? But yeah, so that is the one about the college science majors who both have crushes on one another but don't know how to prove it. And it does not end in a confession, but if you're not that familiar with anime, you know that most times you don't get confessions. Most of the time, the show really is all about the will they, won't they, and never really gives a completely concrete answer on where that couple ends up. The cool thing, like the silver lining, the kind of good news for them is that they both did kiss, and that you don't even see kissing in anime a lot. And so the fact that the two main characters actually kissed on screen and confirmed without confessing their feelings for one another, it was cool to finally get some closure. They're both really funny characters. Overall, this show was just like really funny to watch. It's the art style is a bit much for my taste, but looking past that, it's a lot of funny situational comedy, and it's crazy how each episode does bring a lot of like strange scientific insight with like little asides about like, oh yeah, this theory they're talking about, this is where it was originated from, and this is what people use that for, and talks about like the deep dives that the anime creators or manga creators had to do to make these dialogue between these characters even happen. So it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. And that's all I'm talking about as far as recap for this season. Those are like some top tier anime for this season. I really liked. Again, that's Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken, which we will be talking about shortly. My Hero Academia, which I'm sure everybody's been telling you guys about. Haikyuu, fantastic, and I can't wait to keep seeing, you know, how the spring tournament goes and who else they'll be facing. And then Science Fell in Love. What a quirky show, but I really enjoyed it. It was really funny. I like shows where characters are kind of like lost and don't know how to exactly act, because I just completely relate to that, if you can hear me right now. But yeah, let's keep going with the show to talk about a little bit of industry news next. So if you remember a few episodes ago, I had been talking about some industry news about a teaser from the creator of Bleach. I don't know if I'm getting the pronunciation on this right, but I think it's Tite Kubo. Most people, I tried finding a pronunciation, but everybody just shortens it, just like they talk about him as Kubo. So I will do the same thing. So the creator of Bleach, Kubo, announced, he made a teaser. He put out an image that was just the title Bleach in 2020. And it's about the 20th anniversary project. So it's been 20 years since, I think, the Bleach series itself started. Not the anime, but the manga. And I think it's maybe a little over 8 years since the show ended. I'm trying to get the details on that right. But either way, it's an anniversary year. And so what's going on is that the creator of Bleach has a new show. I believe that's a new project. And it's called Burn the Witch. And this is supposed to be a new story set in the same Bleach universe overall. I'm kind of relating this to like what Fantastic Beast was compared to Harry Potter. Like, who doesn't know Harry Potter? So I'm not going to explain that right now. But like, obviously Harry Potter, that happened like a very European feel to it, and then there's Fantastic Beasts, which takes place in America, and from what I'm understanding, Burn the Witch is dealing with a different soul society from the West, so a different set of characters. I wouldn't be surprised though if you do see some cameos. I'm currently watching a spin-off series of Madoka Magica, and it's been really funny seeing the characters from the proper Madoka Magica show up in this. Whether you want to call it just like just kind of winks or Easter eggs for the fans or whatnot, I would not be surprised. Well, I mean, we even got that in Fantastic Beasts. You got like mentions of Dumbledore and all that stuff. So, yeah, but I'm not really so much focused on that. What I'm really just curious is just to see what a new project like that could be like, because I really like the vibe, the atmosphere, and like just like the overall tone of Bleach when it first started. But it ended up having way too many filler arcs, and so that's why I jumped off of it. But I always really enjoyed like how different Bleach was. It had a lot of style and a lot of like attitude. Like it was just like, it was just different. It was doing anime a little bit differently. It felt kind of like edgy, but this was when I was younger, so I like, this was like my high school years, so I liked that kind of thing. And so that's what I'm kind of curious about, is to see what did Kubo learn from Bleach that he's going to take into the new project, Burn the Witch. So I'm curious to see about that. Similarly, the creator of Naruto, I don't remember his name at all because I dropped Naruto a long time ago, but the creator of Naruto had a new manga that he had coming out, and I checked that out and was not a fan. So that's why, yeah, I'm curious to see, these manga authors who spend years and years, decades or whatever, working on the one property, and when it's time for them to try something new, seeing how that turns out is, I think, super interesting. And I'm excited to get us to talk about Topic of the Week. And so I'm going to kick it off to that interview right now. All right. Thank you, Christian. I am now here in the past with the Daily Sam K. Sam Kingma. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, what's up, Christian? Thanks for having me on the show. I've been wanting to get on forever, so thank you.
Yeah, there's not too many people out there that I immediately know, okay, this person, I definitely want to talk to them about, because, anime fans, they're a dime a dozen everywhere. They're in your Hot Topics, they're in your malls, they're in your GameStops, they're everywhere now. It's the hot new thing. But, like, now that anime is widely accepted, you really gotta pick and choose. Who do you want to talk to? And I knew for Eizouken, I saw how excited you were, and so like, hey, the show's over. We've waved it off into the sunset. Let's get Sam Kingma on here and talk about some anime.
Yeah, so let's hop right in. I mean, where do you want to take this? This is my first spoiler cast. So what do we want to get into?
Thanks. I just want to, let's start off just you and I. So you mentioned that you've been watching it, and so I've kind of we haven't really gone into it at all, like offline or anything, talking about our thoughts. I just knew that I would hold off and wait to unleash the floodgates when the show ended. So now that it's here, let's kind of get everything on the table. So start off just like overall impressions, and right now everything is spoiler free. I will let people know when we're ready to go into a bit more spoiler talk conversation. But right now, just kind of like in general, we're finally getting the chance to talk about this show. Like, what got you so excited about wanting to talk about this?
So what got me so excited to talk about Eizouken is the sheer fact that Eizouken is a masterpiece and definitely definitely majorly altered some aspects of my life. And
okay.
I don't whip that out.
Personally.
I don't whip that out about games. I mean, I'm more of a video game guy than I am like an anime dude. But like, and I don't really watch that much anime, but this Eizouken just connected with me just on such a deep, passionate level from like the very first episode, because what Eizouken's about is it's really not about the creation of anime, but it's just about the creation of art, and specifically the creation of amateur art. And as someone who I personally consider myself like an amateur artist. I love amateur art specifically because I think there's a lot of value in watching passionate people who maybe, don't either have the budget or they don't even maybe necessarily have the skill, but they have a story or they have something they want to get across, be it in film, in music, in, writing, anything like that, that this show perfectly encapsulates. And just, it's about these, basically, for those who haven't seen it, if you haven't,
yes, please,
if you haven't, shut off this podcast. Like, I hate to be like that, but turn the show off, go binge all 12 episodes, and then come back, because basically it's just about these 3 girls in high school. They basically decided to make a film club and create anime, basically, is what the show's about. It's pretty simple, and there have definitely been other stories like this about, group of X people get together to make anime or games, or whatever the case may be. But what I love about Eizouken is Eizuken's so obsessed with the craft of making anime. It's obsessed about every little bit of detail that goes into it, highly specific stuff about the way water flies out of a cup, or like production elements, or the importance of production and having a good schedule, and just all this little stuff Eizouken is so obsessed with, and it just expresses it in such a beautiful way. I think like Makiaka, please help me. Yuasa, I forgot his.
I put all the names in the notes, that way I wouldn't forget.
No, this is the director, Masaaki Yuasa, who created this. Night is Short, Walk On Girl, which was definitely one of my favorite films.
And he did Babe. Okay, you meant, I thought you meant the director character in the show.
Gotcha,
but you were talking about the anime director. Oh yeah,
the anime director,
Yuasa. Yeah, and I think he did Crybaby.
Devilman Crybaby too. And he's incredible. He's definitely like one of my favorite anime directors recently. Like, I really loved Night is Short, Walk On Girl, and I think, like, honestly, like, I haven't seen everything yet. I haven't seen Tatami Galaxy yet, but this is...
It's wild. I didn't realize that those were all the same. So I didn't realize that the director for Eizouken was the same as those until recently. I'd heard someone in podcast mention it, and then it kind of all made sense. It's kind of like if you watch an Edgar Wright film that you didn't realize was directed by him, and then someone says like, "Oh, Baby Driver is an Edgar Wright film." It's like, "Oh, wait, I totally see it now that you mention it." Like, kind of same thing. Like, Yuasa is kind of wild, and Tatami Galaxies, if it's that title also is if it's among Devilman Crybaby and Eizouken, like they're all wild.
They're all so different, but you just see through the Matrix code. You see his DNA in all of his work, which I love authorship. That's like one of my favorite things about art in general is when people have very specific styles or things that they do or references that they make. I don't know, I live for that, and I live for amateur art. And
what sticks out about him in what I've seen, and even if it's something I haven't seen, I've seen like through osmosis and stuff, like what sticks around, what his fingerprint is, or his impact using in a show, is that he seems like he's having a lot of fun being different, like giving something else a twist. Like you said, we'd have other shows where there's either high school characters making anime or making comics or making something, but this one, I guess it really, I don't know, I kind of lost my thought right there.
It's about the beauty. Like, it's like Eizouken's so good, Christian. It's about the beauty of art. It's about the beauty of the things in the world. Because Asaku, I can't pronounce the main character. Asakusa. Thank you. Yeah. I'm waning on my Japanese. It's been years since I took it in college. But Asakusa, basically, she's obsessed with the world around her. She's obsessed with the world she inhabits and she embodies and she lives in, or all that stuff. And she basically, her heightened reality is what we see in the anime that they produce in the show, and it's great. And it's just about the beauty of the natural world and the what's around us in our day-to-day, and seeing beauty in that and producing that in a very fun amateur way. But the characters really give a shit about what they're making, and you just, that passion when you see someone, and when you see, it's so powerful when you see these fictional characters that are 2D cartoons and they're so passionate about what they're making. You can't help but feel passion as well, not only for what they're doing and what they're making, but also to take that passion and bring it into your own life. Because that's what happened to me, because I remember, like, I binged the first 3 episodes of the show. I saw someone mention it. I think it was Digibro or Best Guy Ever. It was like, Eizouken is saving anime. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll check it out. And I watched the first 3 episodes all in a row. I'm like, damn it, why'd I watch this? I should have waited until it was all done, because now I gotta wait. I gotta wait till next Sunday for the next episode, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. It was like one of those like earworm piece of media where like you watch it or you think about it and you just can't stop thinking about the show. So
you're talking about like the craftsmanship of it all, and I think that's what I was looking for. Is that what really stuck out about this one and compared to other stories that maybe tell what it's like being a manga or anime creator is that those all like kind of are like everybody's on board, and so like let's just talk about like the good stuff, whereas this show talks more about like the struggle, in that it even embraces like the unpolished version of what anime is, like just the kind of raw imagination of when you're creating. And you see that in the art style, in the way the characters are created, like the way the landscapes look and the way the imagination sequences do, and even the intro and outro are like everything from the character design to the whole aesthetic is still very like anyone who is not really into anime might walk by it and think like, oh, this is still a work in progress. This hasn't been fully polished and shined and made more mainstream or more this or that. And it really the show is most comfortable when it's like, no, in that in-between stage where it's like a bit more raw.
Yeah, and that's sort of the thing too that you also have to appreciate on like a sort of meta like artistic level, because when you're because I mean, Christian, you and I are both artists, and like we've both been behind a camera, we both filmed and been on production sets and all that stuff, and when you see how the sausage is made, you appreciate a lot of little shit so like much. Way more. and that sort of thing is because from an untrained eye, a lot of the stuff in Eizouken might seem like, oh, like this is kind of amateur, but it's people who are masters of the craft making an aesthetic that invokes an amateur style to people who don't know better. So it's actually like masterful animation, and all the character designs are great. It's just like something you've never really seen before. And because when you go on like Crunchyroll, right, and you scroll through the list of currently airing shows, like they all look most of them look the goddamn same.
Yeah.
And then you got Eizouken, which is just radical, just wildly different looking setting that I've personally never seen before.
It reminds me, if we're comparing like American shows, it looks like Rugrats kind of vibe, or Real Monsters, or something like that.
Yeah,
you know?
I actually think Real Monsters is a pretty good compare. Like a more
and Ed and Eddie is another really good comparison.
Yeah, Ed and Eddie without the boiler technique or whatever it's called that Ed and Eddie like kind of popularized. Very definitely feel that, and also there's a lot of just Ed and Eddie vibes in general. Like I think the three main girls feel very similar to like Ed and Double D, but it's
so with that, like we'll both say one more time, please give this show a shot. Again, it's just a really quirky show about wanting to be an artist, and the fun high school adventures that come with being put down by the high school student council man and all that stuff. And we're still gonna be talking. I just meant that's the end of the kind of. I'm trickling out of the spoiler free section because I feel like we're both holding back. We're ready to kind of unleash the nitty gritty about a few more details.
Of course, and I do want to say like on that to give this show a chance. If you feel like you personally identify as an artist, this is required viewing. Like period. Yeah. I don't think it's if you're just a normal human being, you should definitely watch the show. If you consider yourself an artist or you're a creative or you identify as a creative, this is required viewing. I think end of story. It's a masterpiece, and it will get you to finish your project, whatever it might be. It will get you to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, after you finish the show and finish your project, come back and listen to the spoiler section, which we're starting in 3, 2, 1. Are we all clear? Ready for some spoiler?
Mizusaki dies. No.
Oh, that's only really funny for me because I recently saw a YouTube video where somebody like pranked someone else by saying like Mikasa from Attack on Titan died. And I believed it. Yeah, so that very funny that you brought that up. But yeah, we got a little time for some spoiler talk here. I wanted to hear like, how do you like these characters who really stood out to you?
So yeah, so definitely of all the, I mean, I think the cast, Asakusa, Mizuzaki, and Kanamori, I think all of them are phenomenal characters.
Yeah.
And they're all great, and they're all in like unique, special ways. But the character that really stood out to me, that I really personally connected to on like a deep emotional level, is Kanamori. Because
I could see that, dude. I was predicting in my head who you might say, and yeah, because Kanamori is the one that makes moves, you know,
Kanamori
like pushes things, and that is you. You're the, if you listen to other podcasts out there, you know, like Gone Gold, you know that Sam here is the judge, jury, executioner. You know, he
shit done. And that's what I love about Kanamori. Because here's the thing, Kanamori in a lesser written show is the villain. In a lesser show, she is the villain. She is the one who's stopping good old our creative pals Asakusa and Mizuzaki from making anime. But this isn't a lesser show. This is a great show. And what I love about Kanamori is she is a reflection and she is a positive example of the importance of capitalism in art. Basically, she is super money focused. If obviously if you're listening to this, you've watched the show. She's obsessed with profit and getting stuff done and making a lot of money. And she's just a bona fide entrepreneur. What we all
and always straight up about it. I think one of the first things, like when they get out of the rain and they're going to the laundromat and Mizusaki's like, "Oh, thanks for helping me out." Like Kanamori straight up says, "Yeah, it's because I have ulterior motives." You know.
Yeah, it's
very blunt and very honest, and never is like roundabout with her intentions. Like no matter if it's talking to faculty, she doesn't buckle down and like, "Oh, like no," like she straight up is saying, like, here's the whole plan of like how I'm trying to get around you authority figures. Like here's the fine print. Like I'm showing it to you just, to be transparent.
Yeah, she gets shit done, and she's not. The beautiful thing is like she's really not in it for the art. You see it in her at the end. You see that she takes a major creative backhand, but at the end of the day, and at the end of the series, they wouldn't have released their DVD without her. They wouldn't have finished a single project without her, and the student council would have killed their club. In 2 weeks.
Which is why I can transition from that and say I feel like I'm definitely the Asakusa. Like I am definitely more my head in the clouds. I love thinking of ideas and don't always push myself to, unless I had a Kanamori, and I have different versions of Kanamori in my own life that help push me to finish projects and see things through. And it's part of why I'm here with that nerdy site, putting this podcast on. They are the Kanamori for me, because otherwise, I spent almost like 2 years trying to get this anime podcast off the ground, and it's hard for me to focus, and that's something I definitely see a lot in Asakusa, is like she has so much fun thinking of ideas and being creative, but does need that help finding her focus.
Yeah, and what I love about Asakusa and Mizuzaki too, this definitely also applies to, is they are super creative, and they are very like head in the clouds. Mizuzaki a bit less head in the clouds, just a bit more like a perfectionist. She's focused on reality and just making sure everything is as perfect as humanly possible. And even that's not good enough for her. Like that's the kind of perfectionist like we're dealing with a character like her. But what I like about both those characters is that they work really hard. Like, because you see creatives, like you see it all the time. Like we're both on Twitter.com. You see these people who identify as creatives or as artists or whatever the case may be, and they don't get shit done, and they don't do anything. And they say they're an artist, and they drew something, once 4 months ago, and they haven't done anything since. But what I like about, both of our main leads is that they have the chops to back it up, and they do it. Like they produce 2 whole cuts in like 24 straight hour period at the end of the show, and they get it done. They get shit done. Like, and yeah, definitely they needed a lot of help along the way, but I mean, there's whole scenes and there's whole montages of like Mizuzaki like on the train, like drawing and like being up super late and just drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing, and that's what anime is. And what I like about this show is because anime is a brutal medium on a production level.
It looks very kawaii, but there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, you know, behind those
and,
you know, sketches.
Yeah, and what I like about because you watch a show like Shirobako, which I'm sure most of your audience is probably familiar with, which is also
Shirobako's awesome, fantastic, and I love it in a different way.
Oh, of course,
show.
Yeah. Shirobako is a lot more about the just whole production in general. I mean, you follow it from a producer's perspective.
If I could put it like shortly, Eizouken is about getting off the ground, and Shirobako is about keeping the machine running.
Yeah. Oh, that's a damn, Christian. I'm glad you're here. I would not have worded it like that, but that's perfect. Yeah. No, I honestly, I can't even put it better than that. But yeah, like that's just it. Like what I like about Eizouken is it doesn't step away from, hey, this is hard. Like this is really hard. Like this is hard work, and these girls work. Like this is their life, like producing all the 3 shorts they do in the series. That's their life throughout that whole span of time.
Yeah.
But they get it done and they really give a shit.
Everything, yeah.
And that's what I love. Where like you look at a game you look at an anime like New Game, where New Game is about, you know, girls that work in a game studio, but it doesn't touch on the fact that game development is a living hell.
Right.
But that wasn't the point, because the person who created New Game was like, man, I did game development and it was really hard. What if it didn't suck as much? And he created New Game, and that's why New Game's written like that.
It's in its own way, it's its own escapism, which we can have you back on for New Game, you know, in the future.
Yeah. And New Game's hella cute, and I liked the first season or whatever. But like what I like about Eizouken is it strikes this middle ground where it's like, hey, like, you know, these girls worked really hard to get this stuff done, but they got it done. And they did work hard, and it was fun, and they're happy. Like they're at the end of the show and they're happy, and they're satisfied with what they did. And isn't that the best thing you could ask for?
Which, it's funny you say that, because yes, it is a happy ending, but they also captured that spirit of the artist in that. Like, I think one of the last lines is Asakusa waking up after like they watched it the night before the show and everything, and like they're like, I know what she's gonna say in the morning, and what does she say? Like, there's still room for improvement. Like that is like part of the artist, you know, spirit, is like always wanting to keep improving, and so
and there's
really captures a lot of that.
Yeah, and I mean, as for like like one of my favorite moments in the show, I think that the part that just encapsulates just the beauty of it so hard, and just the beauty of being like an amateur artist. Because I mean, I went to school for digital storytelling, and I like know that feeling. The first film they show, which is a Machete Girl versus the Tank. I forgot the name of the short they show, but they show it in the hall to the student council and everyone who's vying for budget dollars, basically.
Yeah, it's the premiere kind of.
And everyone's
for the club.
And everyone in the crowd's just kind of like blown away, and the student council's like, shit, like that was pretty good. And and the main like student council girl, who was like kind of the foil throughout the whole show. She's not a villain at all, just a foil character.
Just an obstacle.
Yeah. And like she looks up and she sees Mizuzaki and Asakusa talking, and all they're talking about is, man, that didn't work, and like, oh yeah, that cut 68 was pretty rough, and yeah, we definitely need to do that. And the woman, the student council's like, shit, they did all this with like no budget, and they're already like, they're not but they're already going over shit that like was wrong. They're like, what can they do with the real budget? And that's how they get approved for the show. And that's a great moment, because I've definitely
that's
been
like a first win for them, like their first real win.
Yeah, because I've definitely been there where like I showed, you know, I'll show one of my, I mean, I've got a bunch of documentaries on my YouTube channel. By all means, check them out. But I remember when I showed them to my class, and they all laughed. I mean, not to fucking brag, but for my Tinder doc, I got a standing applause for my Tinder doc. Dude, but I was watching it through with my buddy Matt, who helped me film it, with my arms crossed and being like, that cut sucked. Like, that was a bad take.
that's the life, is looking back on it and being like, yeah, this worked, this didn't, and this is what I'll do next time, and that's the cycle.
Yeah, and it's such a great, like, I just really in and as far as this too, because I also do want to say this about the show is like from like a greater perspective, because I did mention earlier, it did like the show did change my life. Not only did it get me more interested in doing more creative stuff or get me back in the creative spirit, but also just like got me back into anime in general, because I was out of the anime game. Like there's a big meme amongst my friends where I'm like the fakest anime fan everyone knows. Like I haven't seen shit. I haven't seen anything.
Hey, this is a good one to see of all the batch.
Yeah,
you know, for the latest batch, this is a good one to tune into.
Yeah, it was just like, it was so good where I was like, oh fuck, I forgot why I liked anime for a second there, and this brought me all back. Because
and it totally works universally. Like it's not just for people that like used to like anime. Like it like you said much earlier. Like yeah, anyone that has any interest in being creative, like this is a good push. Like that's why I really liked about it was that like I've been kind of in a rut for, you know, to timestamp this. We're in the middle of Corona, so everybody's like everybody's locked down, and so it's kind of hard to feel creative or whatever. But like seeing a show like this and seeing students, young creatives, like really push to have their vision seen, that, you know, and recognize, like it is very motivating in these days.
Oh, 100%. And also too, like, because I'm sure, because I mean, I was gonna say that this also appeals to like non-anime fans as well. I mean, I haven't tested it myself, but I think like this is a show, because people always ask, and I'm sure you've covered it on the I'm sure you've covered it on your podcast before too, of like, you know, a good anime to recommend your normie brother or mom or friend.
Which is what I'm planning to have you on next time. Next time
fantastic.
I can get you on. I saw you submitted a topic for getting your normie friends into anime, and I was like, yeah, okay, I definitely want to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, I think this is because there's some pretty obvious picks for getting your normie friends into anime, and we'll do a show on that because it's a great topic. Yeah. But for now, do this. Like this is it, because it has none of the trappings of your regular anime sans 12 episodes, which is a crime. Because we all know Uis is not going to come back. He's done. Like he's going to do something else now, and it's sad because I could watch these girls for years.
Which I don't know. Maybe there's a manga continuation or something like that. I don't know.
I have no idea if it's based off.
I'm curious enough to check it out. Yeah. But what was I going to say? Oh no, I lost it.
Get your normie friends?
No. Yeah. We were talking about getting normies on. Like you said. It doesn't have all the things that there's so many shows that I think are awesome and they're almost slam dunks, and I would like to share them with more people, but they end up having either like a little bit too much violence or fan service or this or that, but this like is pretty wholesome.
It's wholesome.
You know? Like,
it's nothing but wholesome. And anyone who's a creative, if you make music, if you're a writer, if you design, if you do web design, video game design, if you're creative in any medium, any kind of medium, I think you could relate to this show, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. And that's all I gotta say. Masterpiece. Also, the opening's insanely good.
Absolutely.
Kamiko is incredible. Listen to Easy Breezy and Summer Day.
Yeah, I just throw those on the back sometimes. Just I'm cleaning my room, time to get, like, you know, the vibe going.
Dude, I listen to Easy Breezy at least once a day. It's so good.
Dude, it's so good. It's so good. And I think we'll wrap it up with that. Thanks so much, Sam, for joining me. My pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
And yeah, like you heard it here. Like there's so much more I want to talk to Sam about. We'll talk about New Game, which is a very similar show to this, except it revolves around game industry. And second, now we definitely want to talk about how to get some of our normie friends into anime. Because hey, this is the perfect time. This is we need to find light in the darkness, and that is anime.
And hey, you can't talk them out of it. They got nothing. Your normie friends got nothing else to do. So sit them down for Phantom Blood, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Eizouken, whatever you want.
Everything, but first Eizouken.
First Eizouken, please.
Yeah, first Eizouken. All right, thanks again so much, man. Where can people find you?
Oh, okay, yeah. So you can find me on YouTube. Just if you type in my name, Sam Kingma, last name Kingma, or you can follow me on Twitter at the Daily Sam K for updates on some stuff I'm sure this audience will be pretty interested in, and I'll leave it at that.
Yes. Also, yeah. Thanks again for being on. Check out those socials, and back to me in the future. Now let's move on to the culture corner. So to kind of timestamp this, coronavirus is going all around, and so people are being kind of encouraged to stay indoors. And I've been seeing on Twitter a lot of mention of, in Japan, even though things are under lockdown, people are still trying to go out for their Hanami parties. And so I'm kind of trying to use the opportunity and be like, hey, if you've never heard about Hanami, which is something very important, like even under lockdown, people are very, they want people to enjoy Hanami, like they always do, because it's a tradition out there. And so I just thought for the Culture Corner, I'd talk a little bit about Hanami. So what is Hanami? Hanami is a Japanese tradition, and the name means flower viewing. Hana is the word flower, and mi, I think, is a short version of the Japanese word for look. So it's kind of like it's different from a festival. It kind of reminds me of, if I wanted to make kind of an example, I would say it reminds me a lot of like the appeal of at 4th of July, the picnic environment before watching fireworks. Hanami is kind of like a Japanese kind of counterpart to that, except it's not for the sake of celebrating independence or anything like that. Hanami is just when the cherry blossoms are in season, they start to flower out and they fall with the wind. They're delicate flowers, petals, and they're very pretty. You see them in anime all the time. And Hanami is actually like the time of year where the rose petals are in, not the rose petals, but the sakura petals are in bloom and they're falling. And so many people will go out for the weekend and get together with their friends and have picnics, like just picnics as far as I can see. You can YouTube or look up these videos or pictures on Instagram or whatever like that. But Hanamis are, like these flower viewing parties. People get together and just share drink and food and just, it's very scenic. And so you're just taking pictures of like all the cherry blossoms around you. I did a little bit of research on this, and turns out that when it was in its first kind of incarnation back in like 710 AD, it was more about a viewing for plum flowers, I think is what, it was a different kind of flower, and I'm pretty sure it was a plum flowers that were being viewed, and that was kind of a tradition that went on from about 710 to 794. After that, that's when the shift went from the plum flower to the cherry blossom flowers, which again, if you've never seen in anime, I'm pretty sure you've seen it, but it's like when those pink light petals fall. And I always think it's really pretty, and I just think it's like a really pretty aesthetic that I've always enjoyed in games and anime and movies. And so, but it's a real thing. And people right now are really wanting to enjoy that. And so, not going to get into that particularly, but seeing that on the timeline recently, the kind of the conflict, I guess, of people wanting to be able to go and, with their friends and not be inside and actually go and celebrate Hanami, I was like, let me take this time to just let people know, hey, there's this thing out there called Hanami, and here's a little bit about it. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about that. No questions this week, so we'll kind of just wrap things up there. Thank you all for joining me this week, and thank you again, Sam, for joining me to talk about Eizouken. It was a lot of fun. And you can follow him at The Daily Sam K. That's Sam Kingma. And you can also see him on other podcasts like Gone Gold. If you want to give them a follow too, let them know I sent you there too. And we'll go ahead and get things rolling on out of here. Speaking of rolling, thank you, Grimecraft, for your track of Lonely Rolling Star remix in cooperation with Game Chops. And I will see you guys next week, where again, I think this is the end of proper season 1. Next week, let's call it like a filler season before the spring 2020 season starts. I think next week I will talk about new anime for the topic of the week. Talk about different shows that I think are coming out that might be worth checking out. So again, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye.